How do you know my dead wife's name? Marcus Reed's voice cut through the quiet dining room as every fork seemed to stop above its plate. Across the marble table, Claire Whitmore held a cream-colored card above a bouquet of white roses, her thumb resting beside a pressed blue cornflower. Victor Hale pointed Marcus toward the exit while Lily stood behind the glass door with one hand against it. That's Mama's handwriting, the 9-year-old whispered. 3 hours earlier, Marcus had been kneeling beneath the fluorescent lights of an airport maintenance bay, tightening a loose fuel line coupling on a baggage tractor, while the sharp smell of hydraulic oil clung to his Navy work jacket. The machine's vibration had been wrong by half a beat, the kind of small mechanical complaint most people ignored until metal broke and someone got hurt. Marcus shut it down, marked the fault on the service tablet, and stayed 14 minutes past his shift to show the morning technician exactly where the pressure dropped. He did not mention that Rosaline Flores had already texted twice about an evening delivery route, or that Lily was waiting in the employee family room with her math workbook open beside a paper flower she had folded from blue construction paper. "You missed dinner," she said when he arrived. There was no accusation in her voice, only the careful honesty of a child who had learned that grown-ups could be tired without loving you less. Marcus checked the vending machine balance on his phone, bought one turkey sandwich, and divided it evenly with the plastic knife from the break room. "We'll eat something real after the delivery," he told her. Lily looked at the worn leather folio tucked beneath his arm. Its brass clasp had stopped closing that morning. Inside it, between delivery receipts and a photograph of Maya in blue hospital scrubs, Marcus kept the last card his wife had written before cancer took her 3 years earlier. He had planned to leave it in the glove compartment, but Lily had asked to hold the folio while he changed out of his work boots. At Rosaline, the air smelled of wet stems, eucalyptus, and chilled concrete. A dispatcher slid a tall bouquet of white roses across the wrapping table and said the order had been upgraded to private service at the Meridian Grand. Marcus checked the printed label. Room 1708, Harold and June Mercer, 40th anniversary. Nothing about a restaurant. Nothing about a CEO. While Marcus signed the route sheet, the broken clasp opened again. Lily caught the folio before it hit the floor, tucked the loose card beneath the bouquet's inner tissue so it would not be crushed, and returned to her homework without reading it. 22 minutes later, the delivery app refreshed. The room number vanished. A new instruction appeared: Aurelia Restaurant, private glass room, executive guest correction. Marcus frowned, but the barcode still matched the sealed order, and the system marked the change authorized. At the Meridian Grand, polished brass doors reflected his work jacket and Lily's red coat back at them, like they had entered a world designed to notice every scuff. Victor met them before the elevator fully opened. His smile was professional, but his eyes dropped first to Marcus's boots, then to Lily. "Children wait in the lobby. Delivery personnel do not enter the VIP room." Marcus asked whether someone could stay with her for the 2 minutes the signature required. Victor gestured toward a chair behind the glass coat check wall. "She'll be visible." Inside Aurelia, candlelight trembled across crystal glasses. Claire sat alone at a table set for two, a silver watch beside her untouched plate and an empty chair facing her. Marcus lowered the roses carefully. Victor reached across him, tugged at the wrapping, and the cream card slipped free. It spun once across the marble and stopped beside Claire's hand. She opened it. Her breath caught at the pressed blue flower. "Maya Reed." Marcus went still. Lily pressed her palm to the glass. Dana Pierce entered at a measured pace, already telling security that the delivery man had ignored repeated warnings. Victor nodded and said, "I warned him twice." Marcus looked directly at him because until that moment Victor Hale had never spoken to him before. Marcus held Victor's gaze. "You never warned me." "Sir, please lower your voice." "I haven't raised it." The room remained polished and quiet around them, full of candlelight, low piano music, and diners pretending not to watch. Victor's hand tightened around the leather-bound incident tablet, while Dana Pierce stepped between Marcus and Claire with the careful expression of someone arriving to protect a fragile situation. "Mrs. Whitmore has experienced unwanted approaches before," Dana said. I'm sure you understand why we need to be cautious. Her voice carried sympathy without warmth. She glanced at Marcus's oil-marked boots, the frayed cuff of his navy work jacket, and the Rosaline delivery badge clipped near his chest. Security will examine the bag, confirm your route, and escort you out. If this is an innocent mistake, the process will show that. And my daughter? Marcus asked. She is perfectly safe, Victor replied. Through the glass wall, Lily sat alone beside a rack of dark winter coats, her small red sleeves disappearing beneath Marcus's oversized jacket. A security camera faced the lobby, but the chair had been placed just beyond the nearest employee desk. Lily held her blue paper flower between both hands and watched the adults speak about her without allowing her into the room. One of the security officers reached for Marcus's worn leather folio. Marcus placed his palm over it. Not aggressively, only firmly enough to stop the movement. You can inspect it with me standing here, he said. It contains a photograph of my wife. Dana gave a patient nod, as though granting an unreasonable man a favor. Of course, we want to preserve everyone's dignity. Behind her, a guest lifted a phone and angled it toward Marcus. The screen captured his dark work clothes, Claire's wet eyes, and the white roses between them. It did not capture Victor pulling the wrapping. It did not show Lily behind the glass. It did not show Dana entering after the card had fallen. Victor began typing. His fingernails clicked against the tablet beneath the soft clink of silverware. Adult male entered restricted dining room after verbal redirection, he murmured. Minor child became disruptive when separated from guardian. Marcus turned his head slowly. She hasn't said a word. Please don't make this harder. Delete that line. The report reflects the disturbance. Marcus looked through the glass. Lily's feet did not reach the floor. She had tucked them beneath the chair so passing guests would not trip over her shoes. He could have argued about being called an intruder. He could have demanded the phone recording be stopped. Instead, he pointed to the tablet. Write whatever opinion you have about me. Don't put something my child didn't do into a permanent record. For the first time, Claire looked away from the card. Her attention moved to Lily, then to Victor's screen.
Dana touched Claire's shoulder lightly.
You don't need to involve yourself in the security language. We can review it later. Claire did not answer. An alert sounded from Marcus's phone. Rosaline had suspended his weekend route pending a complaint from Meridian Grand. A second message appeared beneath it, this one from Airport Human Resources, asking whether he had used company clothing or credentials to gain unauthorized access to an executive guest. Marcus read both messages without changing expression. Then he crossed to the glass door, knelt beside Lily, and pulled the zipper of her red coat to her chin. Did I do something wrong? She whispered. No. Is the card ruined? No, baby. He adjusted the strap of her backpack and made sure the blue paper flower was not bent. We're going to walk out calmly. That's all you need to do. When he stood, Victor was speaking into a hotel phone, describing Marcus as uncooperative. Marcus took out his own phone and asked to see the incident number before leaving. Victor turned the tablet toward him for less than a second, expecting the laborer in front of him to notice only the accusation. Marcus noticed the timestamp. Report created. 7:41 p.m. Lobby entry scan. 7:44 p.m. His thumb moved once, capturing both lines before Victor pulled the screen back. That's an automated draft, Dana said immediately. Nobody had mentioned the time aloud. Claire's eyes shifted toward her. Marcus said nothing. He collected Lily's backpack, took one last look at Maya's cream card in Claire's hand, and walked toward the elevator. Beneath the weight of every watching face. Inside the mirrored car, Lily leaned against his arm while the doors closed on Aurelia's golden light. Marcus opened the Rosaline app to check the original delivery record. The destination had changed, but that was not the detail that made his breathing slow. The first order had never been addressed to Claire Whitmore at all. The original order belonged to Harold and June Mercer in room 1708, a couple celebrating 40 years of marriage with a $12 cake and an empty flower vase. Marcus stared at the delivery screen while the elevator descended, then pressed the call button for Rosaline. The flowers were reassigned, the dispatcher said. We can't send another arrangement until the complaint is reviewed. They already paid. I know. Then charge the replacement to my route. Lily looked up at him. But they stopped your route. Marcus watched the floor numbers blink above the mirror doors. The money in his account had already been divided between groceries, gas, and the electric bill due Friday. They shouldn't lose their anniversary because someone changed a screen, he said. In the lobby, he and Lily crossed through the revolving doors into the cold Atlanta night. The nearest store sold wilted carnations beneath humming fluorescent lights. Marcus chose the best stems one at a time, trimming 2 brown edges with the cashier's scissors while Lily held the plastic sleeve open. He paid with the money he had set aside for their breakfast the next morning. Are we skipping pancakes? Lily asked. We're moving pancakes. To when? A day that isn't tonight. She considered that, then nodded and carried the flowers carefully against her red coat. Back inside the hotel, Marcus asked the front desk to send the carnations to room 1708 without listing his name. The clerk hesitated until he showed her the original receipt and the reassignment notice. A message flashed on her monitor before she printed the delivery slip. Your anniversary flowers were reassigned due to an executive guest correction. The notice had been sent at 7:32 p.m., 12 minutes before Marcus's badge was scanned in the lobby and long before the route had reached his phone. He photographed the screen with the clerk's permission, folded the new receipt into his worn leather folio, and tested the broken brass clasp with his thumb. It slipped open again. The space where Maya's cream card had rested was empty. Dad, Lily said softly. I put it in the flower paper so it wouldn't fall. Marcus looked at her. Her eyes dropped to the blue paper flower in her hand. I didn't read it. I know. He crouched and straightened the backpack strap twisted beneath her collar. You were trying to keep it safe. Through the lobby's glass, a camera flash reflected from the upper restaurant level. Marcus followed the angle and saw a man with a long lens positioned outside Aurelia's private room. Claire was still seated beside the empty chair, the white roses between her and the glass. Her head was bowed over Maya's card. Dana stood several feet behind her, speaking to Victor. The elevator doors opened. Marcus should have taken Lily home. Rosaline had suspended him. Airport Human Resources was asking questions. Every minute inside Meridian Grand could be used against him. Then another flash lit Claire's face. Marcus took Lily to the staffed concierge desk and asked the woman there to watch her for less than 2 minutes. Stay where I can see you, he told Lily. I will. He returned upstairs without entering the private room. From the doorway, he reached just far enough to rotate the tall vase of white roses. The blooms spread across the photographer's line of sight, hiding Claire's face behind pale petals and green leaves. A glass of water had tipped beside the empty place setting. Marcus used a folded linen napkin to stop it from reaching the framed wedding photograph near the plate. Victor appeared behind him. You were told to leave. The picture was getting wet. That is not your concern. Marcus dried the marble, then removed one white rose from the arrangement. He had purchased it separately that afternoon to leave at Maya's grave after the delivery. He placed it beside the untouched plate facing Claire's empty chair. She doesn't need another flower, Dana said, approaching with a sealed envelope. She needs privacy. This will cover your inconvenience if you agree not to discuss tonight. Marcus did not touch the envelope. Keep it.
Dana's smile tightened.
You've lost work because of this. Then money should not decide which version becomes true. Claire lifted her eyes from the card. You don't want to know who I am? Marcus glanced at the photographer beyond the glass, then at the tremor in her hand. Tonight, you're someone who shouldn't be photographed while she's hurting. He turned toward the door. Lily stood below in the lobby, visible through the atrium glass, holding her blue paper flower against her chest. When Marcus reached her, she slipped it through the narrow opening beside the private room door before taking his hand. The little flower landed near Claire's silver watch. Claire picked it up, unfolded one carefully creased petal, and stopped breathing for a moment. 6 years earlier, In a hospital corridor that smelled of antiseptic and cold coffee, a night shift nurse named Maya had folded a cornflower in exactly the same way. By the time Marcus and Lily reached the parking garage, Dana had already turned his kindness into another accusation. He returned after being escorted out. He interfered with a private memorial. He placed another object near Mrs. Whitmore. The words appeared in an updated incident report before Marcus had even started his truck. Upstairs, Claire sat beneath the muted lights of a small conference room, Maya's cream card sealed inside a clear evidence sleeve beside Lily's blue paper flower. She had stopped Dana from removing either item, but she had not stopped doubting Marcus. Grief had made Claire vulnerable before. People had claimed to know her late husband, offered invented messages, and waited for money or access. A delivery driver carrying the last note of the nurse who had once comforted her was either an extraordinary coincidence or a carefully designed lie. The following afternoon, Marcus returned to Meridian Grand with an independent attorney, a Rosaline representative, and the worn leather folio beneath his arm. Lily remained at school with her regular aftercare teacher. Dana sat beside Claire, her posture straight, her expression composed. "This is not an accusation," she said. "It is a verification process." "Then verify it," Marcus replied. Claire placed a second piece of paper on the table. It was smaller than Maya's card, softened at the edges from years inside a wallet, with a faded hospital department code printed along the bottom. A pressed blue cornflower rested beneath transparent tape. The right corner had been folded inward. "A nurse gave me this 6 years ago," Claire said. "She never wrote her last name." Marcus did not reach for it. He leaned forward only enough to see the slant of the handwriting and the 2 short lines beneath the word kindness. "May I ask one question?" Claire nodded. "Did you ever unfold that corner?" Dana's fingers stopped against her legal pad. Claire turned the paper face down, hiding everything beneath the crease. "What do you believe is written there?" "I don't believe anything yet," Marcus said. But Maya folded the right corner when she wanted someone to find one sentence later, when the room was quiet. "What sentence?" Dana asked. Marcus kept his eyes on Claire. "Leave one light on," the air conditioning whispered above them. Somewhere beyond the conference room wall, a service cart rolled across tile, one loose while clicking at regular intervals. Claire slid a fingernail beneath the old fold and opened it. For words appeared in faded blue ink. "Leave one light on." Dana exhaled through her nose. That phrase may have been visible through the paper. "Then hold it to the window," Marcus said. He did not sound offended. He sounded like a man checking a pressure gauge. Claire carried the note to the narrow band of afternoon light beside the blinds. The paper was thick enough that the hidden sentence disappeared completely when folded. She looked back at Marcus, not with trust, but with the first careful recognition that he had offered a claim capable of proving him wrong. "The hospital may still have her service records," he said. "The paper can be dated. The ink can be tested. My memory should not be the deciding evidence." Dana closed her folder. "We are giving too much weight to sentimental similarities." The card. Inside the roses may have been copied from something publicly available. Marcus's gaze shifted to her. Claire's did too. Dana had entered Aurelia after the cream card had already fallen onto the table. No one had told her it had been hidden inside the roses. Dana recovered without changing her expression. "Victor described the scene in his report." "Victor's report says it fell from my folio," Marcus said. The Rosaline representative opened the delivery file on a laptop, and the cold white screen reflected across the polished table. Claire said nothing, but she no longer looked at Marcus when she asked the independent attorney to preserve both pieces of paper and request the hospital records. "Also audit the flower order," she added. Dana turned toward her. "Claire, that falls outside the purpose of this meeting." So did a report written 3 minutes before he arrived. The attorney entered the order number. A list of access events appeared, each marked by time, device, and permission level. The order had been opened 3 times before Marcus received the route. All 3 access events came from an executive account registered to Dana Pierce. The executive account belonged to Dana Pierce, but Dana did not move when her name appeared on the screen. "My credentials are used by several departments," she said. "That proves access, not intent." "Then preserve the device logs," Claire replied. Dana's smile remained in place, though one finger pressed too hard against the edge of her folder. Before the independent attorney could answer, a representative from Meridian's insurance carrier entered with a thin settlement packet and placed it in front of Marcus. The paper smelled faintly of fresh toner. "This can end today," the man said. "Rosaline restores your weekend route, the hotel reimburses your lost wages, and the public video is removed." Marcus turned one page, then another. The air conditioner became louder in the silence. "What do I sign? That you entered the wrong room unintentionally. And my daughter? That she became distressed during the separation." Marcus placed his forefinger beneath the sentence. "It says she was disruptive. It is standard language. It is false language." The insurance representative leaned back. "Mr. Reed, no one is calling your daughter a bad child. Then don't write that she did something bad." Dana folded her hands. "Perhaps we should avoid making this more painful than it already is." Marcus looked at her, then at Claire. "Pain isn't the part I'm asking you to correct." He slid the packet back across the table. "The record is." The Rosaline representative cleared her throat and opened a second file on the laptop. "We found something." Grainy footage filled the screen. The flower shop's wrapping station under fluorescent lights, buckets of white roses along the wall, Lily seated at a small side table with a math worksheet. Marcus appeared briefly at the counter, signing the route sheet. Behind him, the brass clasp on his leather folio sprang open. The cream card slipped halfway out. Lily noticed it, left her chair, and caught the folio before it fell. She tucked the card beneath the bouquet's inner tissue, pressed the paper flat, and returned to her homework. The timestamp showed the card entered the flowers 11 minutes before the delivery system assigned Marcus to the Meridian route. The route screen in the corner still listed Harold and June Mercer in room 1708. No one spoke. A chair stopped scraping in the hallway. Claire slowly lowered her hand onto the settlement packet. "Can the assignment process be altered by the driver?" she asked. "Not after sealing," the Rosaline representative said. "The route is selected automatically by location and availability." Marcus did not know the destination when Lily protected the card. Dana leaned toward the screen. "A child moving evidence creates complications." Marcus did not turn on her. He looked at Lily, who sat beside the aftercare teacher in the adjacent room, visible through an open interior door. Her shoulders had been drawn up since entering the hotel. Now they lowered slightly. "She wasn't moving evidence," Marcus said. "She was keeping something from her mother off the floor." The attorney advanced the footage frame by frame. Lily never opened the card. She never looked toward the routing monitor. She simply closed the tissue around it and returned to a page of multiplication problems. Claire stood, crossed into the next room, and knelt beside her chair without reaching for her. "Lily, I'm sorry you were kept alone and blamed for something you didn't do." Lily looked at Marcus before answering. He gave no instruction, only waited. "Are they changing the report?" she asked. "Yes," Claire said. "Would you like the apology kept private?" Lily twisted the stem of her blue paper flower between her fingers. "They all heard the wrong part." Claire's expression tightened, not from offense but recognition. "Then they will hear the right part." Back at the conference table, Dana requested that the audit be paused until internal counsel could review the privacy exposure. Claire removed Dana's access card from the evidence folder and handed it to the independent attorney. "No files are deleted. No footage is overwritten. No account is restored without written approval." Dana's face remained calm, but the color had left her lips. The full audit log loaded one line at a time. The flower order had not merely been reassigned. Someone using Dana's executive credentials had added Claire's name, Aurelia's private glass room, and the note "private grief dinner" before Marcus ever received the route. The words private grief dinner remained on the screen like something written by a person who had been watching Claire long before Marcus carried the roses through the door. The independent attorney enlarged the audit trail. Dana's executive account had opened the original Room 1708 order at 6:48 p.m., replaced Harold and June Mercer with Claire Whitmore, and attached the private dining note. "Someone used my credentials," Dana said. "Then the device history will show us who," Claire replied. A printer near the wall finished its last page and went silent. The attorney placed 5 documents across the table in chronological order. A photography contract signed 2 weeks earlier, a board petition created at 5:12 that afternoon, the flower order edit, Victor's incident report at 7:41, and Marcus's lobby scan at 7:44. The petition asked Meridian's board to restrict Claire's voting authority after what it called an anticipated episode of emotional instability. One sentence described white roses and a handwritten message. The flowers had not yet reached the hotel when those words were typed. Dana's hand moved toward the petition. Claire placed 2 fingers on it first. "Who drafted this?" "Adrian's governance team," Dana answered. "They prepare contingency language." Marcus looked at the page without touching it. "Does contingency language usually include the color of flowers that haven't arrived?" No one answered. The attorney opened a second file. Harold Mercer had forwarded the message sent to Room 1708 at 7:32 p.m. "Your anniversary flowers were reassigned due to an executive guest correction." Beneath it was the name of the employee account that authorized the change.
Dana Pierce.
Dana removed her phone from the table and slipped it into her purse. The motion was small, but Claire noticed. "Leave the phone," she said. Dana's voice changed by half a degree. "Claire, this is becoming unnecessarily adversarial." "No," Claire said. "It became adversarial when someone wrote the outcome before the event." The compliance officer brought up security footage from the service corridor outside Aurelia. At 7:36, Dana appeared beside Victor near the employee entrance and handed him a sealed envelope. At 7:39, a photographer took position behind the glass partition. At 7:41, Victor opened the incident template. The video continued, but its audio track was empty. Not muted, deleted. A system note showed the removal had been performed manually from an administrator account belonging to Adrian Cross's office. The attorney warned that account access still did not prove Adrian himself had issued the order. Claire nodded. She was no longer looking for someone to blame quickly. She was looking for something that would remain true after every lawyer in the building tried to break it apart. Marcus understood that kind of caution. At the airport, a loose reading was not enough to shut down a machine or accuse a technician. You documented the vibration, the pressure, the time, and the person who signed the service log. "There may be another camera," Marcus said. Dana turned sharply. "You repair ground equipment. You are not a security specialist." Marcus ignored the insult. He pointed to the corridor image. "The banquet employee badge reader lights up when that service door opens. Systems like that sometimes keep their own event record. If the camera audio was removed, the door controller may still have a separate timestamp." The compliance officer began searching the building plan. Victor, reached by speakerphone, claimed the young banquet attendant had probably used someone else's access and caused the confusion. Marcus leaned toward the phone. "What is her clearance level?" "That is not relevant. It is if you are putting her name into another report." The records showed the attendant could scan the door but could not edit orders, create executive notes, access camera audio, or open incident templates. Marcus could have let Victor blame her. Doing so might have narrowed suspicion away from him faster. Instead, he asked that her name be removed until evidence connected her to an action she had authority to perform. Claire watched him make the choice without looking for approval. That was when belief began to replace sympathy. Not because Marcus knew how to read a log, but because he refused to purchase his own innocence with someone else's vulnerability. The compliance officer found more. In the previous 18 months, Victor had amended 7 incident reports after contract workers filed complaints. 3 original versions were missing. 2 delivery drivers had been marked aggressive after disputing billing errors. A banquet server had been disciplined for entering a restricted room even though her badge had been activated remotely. The flower delivery was not an isolated failure. It was a method. Prepare the record, control the image, then choose the least powerful person to carry the blame. Adrian called before the meeting ended. His face appeared on the conference screen, composed and concerned. He said Claire was allowing grief and a stranger's story to damage the company, and he formally requested an emergency board vote at Aurelia to determine whether she should retain full executive authority. Claire looked through the glass wall toward the restaurant where Marcus and Lily had been treated like evidence instead of people. Agreed, she said, but the independent committee sees every file. As Adrian's expression tightened, the compliance officer lifted one final document. The deleted camera audio had not been recovered, but the building plan showed that the service door was connected to an independent fire safety recording box, one that Adrian's office had no authority to erase. By midnight, the truth would no longer fit inside a closed conference room. By 9 the next morning, Aurelia's private glass room no longer looked like a place built for romance. The white tablecloth had been replaced by a dark conference runner. Microphones stood between the untouched place settings, and the empty chair from Claire's anniversary dinner remained at the far end like a witness no one had been able to dismiss. Members of Meridian's independent committee sat beneath the chandeliers with outside counsel, compliance officers, and 2 union observers. Marcus entered in his navy work jacket, the oil stain still visible near one cuff. He looked tired, not triumphant. Lily was not brought into the hearing room. She waited in a nearby family lounge with her school counselor, her backpack beside her and the blue paper flower resting in her lap. Adrian Cross stood at the head of the table in a charcoal suit, calm enough to look reasonable. Dana sat 3 seats away with separate counsel. Victor wore his manager's uniform and kept both hands folded over a printed copy of the incident report. Claire took the chair opposite Adrian but said nothing. She had the authority to change the room with one sentence. Instead, she allowed the evidence to speak before she did. Adrian began with the photograph. On the screen, Marcus appeared bent close to Claire while she held Maya's card. The angle erased the glass door, Lily, Victor's hand, and the photographer outside. This image shows an unauthorized delivery worker using a private emotional connection to approach Meridian's chief executive, Adrian said. No one disputes that Mr. Reed may believe his story, but belief is not proof. For several seconds, the explanation seemed to settle over the committee. One member asked whether Marcus had ever searched Claire's name before the delivery. Another asked whether Maya's hospital work could have been found online. Adrian had given them a safer story: a grieving father, a vulnerable CEO, and an unfortunate boundary violation. Marcus waited until the questions stopped. Then he placed Maya's cream card inside a clear sleeve at the center of the table. "This is the item that fell from the roses," he said. The packing video shows when it entered the bouquet. The footage appeared next. Lily caught the open folio, tucked the card beneath the tissue, and returned to her math page. The route had not yet been assigned. Claire watched the screen without blinking. Adrian leaned toward his microphone. "That proves the child placed the card there. It does not prove Mr. Reed had no prior knowledge of the destination." The room shifted again. His answer was plausible enough to slow the momentum. Marcus opened the Rosaline routing record. "The route reached my phone at 7:22. Claire Whitmore's name was added at 6:48 by an executive account. Before that, the order belonged to Harold and June Mercer in room 1708. The elderly couple appeared by secure video from their home. Harold held up the hotel message they had received at 7:32. "We were told our flowers had been moved for an executive guest correction," he said. "We never approved it." June added that a small bouquet of carnations had arrived later with no sender listed. "We found out afterward that Mr. Reed paid for those himself." Adrian's expression did not change. A kind gesture after a mistake does not erase the mistake. Marcus looked toward him. "I agree." The words stopped Adrian for half a breath. "Kindness is not evidence," Marcus continued. "The timestamps are." The committee reviewed the lobby scan at 7:44, Victor's incident report created at 7:41, and the note child disruption selected before Lily entered the building. Victor cleared his throat. The template was generated automatically because we were warned a distressed child might accompany the delivery. Warned by whom? Claire asked. Victor looked at Dana. Dana's counsel touched her sleeve before she answered. The note may have come from event operations. These systems circulate information imperfectly. Marcus slid the access permission chart forward. The banquet employee Victor named last night could not create that note, edit the order, or open the incident template. Victor's chair made a soft sound against the floor. Someone may have used her badge. Her badge was inactive, Marcus said. She was clocked out 40 minutes earlier. He did not look toward the employees watching from beyond the glass. I'm not here to move a false record from my daughter's name to someone with less power. The room went still enough for the refrigeration unit behind the bar to be heard clicking on. Claire's gaze rested on Marcus, not with pity, but with the steady attention given to a man who had refused an easier victory. Adrian adjusted his cuff. Even if the report was mishandled, there is still no proof that anyone intended to harm Mrs. Whitmore. Dana may have redirected the flowers as a misguided act of compassion. Victor may have prepared for a difficult delivery. Poor judgment is not conspiracy. For a moment, it was his strongest argument. It separated every action and made each one look merely careless. Claire picked up the cream card and turned it over without revealing the writing on the back. Then answer one question, she said. Who told you there was anything written on this side? Adrian's eyes moved to the card. Nothing on the back proves intent. No one had said there was writing on the back. No image of it had been entered into the committee record. Marcus did not smile. He only looked toward the independent attorney. That detail did not come from me. A side door opened. The compliance technician entered carrying a gray metal recording box sealed inside a transparent evidence bag. He placed it beneath the document camera, where the checksum, device number, and fire safety timestamp appeared on the screen. The corridor camera lost its audio, he said. This system did not. In the family lounge, Lily watched through a muted monitor and tightened her fingers around the blue paper flower. Inside Aurelia, Claire placed one hand flat on the table. Adrian's face finally lost its practiced calm as the technician connected the recording box and moved his finger toward the play button. The recording began with the metallic click of Aurelia's service door. Then Dana's voice filled the room. Keep the child outside. Claire must be alone when the flowers arrive. Victor answered, quieter than before. Do I call security when he enters? A man's voice came through the speaker. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Not until she opens the card. We need the photograph first. No one moved. The fire safety timestamp glowed beneath the audio waveform while the refrigeration unit behind the bar hummed into the silence. Adrian's pen slipped from his fingers and struck the table once. That recording lacks context, he said, but his voice had gone dry. The technician enlarged the checksum and device record. The file had been created automatically when the service door opened, stored on a system outside the hotel's executive network, and sealed before anyone knew it existed. The voice analyst's report appeared beside it. The male speaker matched Adrian Cross's recorded board calls. Dana stared at the carpet. Victor's hands closed around the edge of his report. Adrian turned toward Claire. I was trying to protect the company from an unstable public incident. Claire did not answer him. She nodded to the independent attorney. A backup from Dana's company phone appeared on the screen. One message contained photographs of both sides of Maya's card. Beneath them, Dana had written, "She reacted exactly as expected." Another message from Adrian instructed the photographer to wait until Claire opened the card and Marcus entered the frame. Adrian leaned toward his microphone. I never read the card. The words were irrelevant. We were documenting her reaction. Claire placed the cream card beneath the document camera. The pressed blue cornflower, the folded corner, and Maya's faded handwriting filled the wall behind them. Claire covered the final 6 words on the back with her hand. Then tell the committee what you believe this side says. Nothing on the back changes the governance issue. Adrian replied. Especially not those words about leaving room for the living. Claire slowly lifted her hand. The 6 hidden words read, "Leave room in your heart for the living." The room froze.
No chair shifted.
No lawyer whispered. Even the camera shutters beyond the glass stopped clicking. Adrian had read words never shown in the hearing, never included in the evidence packet, and never spoken aloud. Claire looked at him for several seconds before turning to the committee. The record is complete. She began with Victor's report. Her voice did not rise. She read each false statement and corrected it with the evidence beside her. Marcus had not entered after repeated warnings. Victor had never spoken to him before the card fell. Lily had not shouted, run, or disrupted the room. The child disruption entry existed before she entered the building. Marcus had not demanded money. He had refused both Dana's envelope and the insurer's settlement because each required a false statement about his daughter. He had shielded Claire from the photographer, replaced the flowers stolen from Harold and June Mercer, and protected a banquet employee from carrying blame for permissions she did not possess. Mr. Reed's character is not proven by his income, Claire said. It is proven by what he chose when every easier choice required someone weaker to pay for it. Marcus stood beside the table with one hand resting near Maya's card. He did not look at Adrian or the cameras. He looked through the glass toward the family lounge. The committee suspended Adrian's voting and governance authority pending formal removal. Dana's employment access was terminated, and her devices and records were transferred to forensic auditors and outside investigators. Victor was dismissed for falsifying reports, discriminatory enforcement, and violating child safety policy. Every employee he had named was placed under independent protection from retaliation. Rosaline withdrew Marcus's suspension and issued a correction. Airport Human Resources confirmed that his work jacket had been worn after a legitimate shift, and that no company credentials had been misused. Marcus spoke only once. Put the correction wherever you put the accusation. Claire ordered the complete footage, not the edited clip, preserved and released with the findings. Then Marcus walked to the glass door that had separated him from Lily. He opened it and waited. He did not summon her into the crowded room. Lily looked at her counselor, then at her father, and stepped through on her own, holding the blue paper flower against her chest. Marcus knelt and let her take his hand. "They heard the right part?" she whispered. "They did." Behind them, Claire asked what compensation he wanted from Meridian. Marcus rose slowly, still holding Lily's hand, and looked past the board members toward the servers, delivery workers, and contract employees standing silently along the wall. The truth had finally given him a voice inside the room that tried to erase him. But what would he choose to say with it? The room emptied without applause. Board members gathered their folders in silence. Servers returned to the dining floor, and the glass door that had once kept Lily outside remained propped open. Adrian left with counsel. Dana's phone and access badge were sealed into an evidence bag. Victor's name disappeared from the manager's schedule before the chandeliers dimmed. Marcus stayed long enough to watch the independent attorney replace the false incident report with a corrected version. The original was not destroyed. It was preserved beside the amendment so no one could later pretend the lie had never existed. Claire slid the final copy across the table. Lily Reed did not disrupt the restaurant, she read. Marcus Reed did not enter without authorization, solicit money, threaten staff, or misuse company credentials. Marcus looked at the printed words, then at his daughter. She gets a copy. So do you, Claire said, and every department that received the accusation. Lily stood close enough for the sleeve of his navy work jacket to brush her red coat. She no longer held the blue paper flower against her chest. She had placed it beside Maya's cream card, where the two small objects rested under the same pool of warm light. Claire asked again what compensation Marcus wanted. He could have named a number. Rosaline owed him lost wages. Meridian owed him more than an apology. The edited video had reached his workplace and Lily's school. But Marcus looked through the glass at the contract workers waiting to learn whether the truth would protect anyone besides him. Correct every record, he said. Give people copies when their names are put into reports. Create somewhere vendors can complain without answering to the manager they're reporting. And never use a child to control a parent again. Claire wrote each request down. Marcus added protection for the banquet employee Victor had tried to blame, an independent review of earlier complaints, and a rule preventing incident reports from being altered without preserving the first version. He did not ask that Adrian, Dana, or Victor be humiliated publicly. He asked that the evidence go where it belonged, to the board, the forensic auditors, outside counsel, and any agency with authority to act. Accountability does not need an audience, he said. It needs a record. Meridian's board adopted the reforms as formal policy, not a private promise. An independent ombuds office was created for delivery workers, contractors, and hourly employees. Parents working emergency shifts received access to safe family waiting areas. Anyone named in an incident report gained the right to review and answer it. The complete restaurant footage replaced the edited clip online, accompanied by a correction that used Marcus's full name and identified him as an airport ground equipment technician and weekend Rosaline driver. Rosaline restored his route and paid the wages he had lost. The airport closed its review with no violation. Marcus returned to the maintenance bay the following Monday. The fluorescent lights still buzzed. Hydraulic oil still stained the concrete. A baggage tractor still made a wrong sound when its pressure line loosened. Nothing about honest work had become smaller because wealthy people finally understood it. Months passed before Claire and Marcus shared a meal that was not connected to lawyers, evidence, or board policy. Their first was at a neighborhood diner where Lily ordered pancakes for dinner because Marcus still owed her the breakfast they had postponed. Claire arrived without an assistant. Marcus arrived without flowers. They spoke about ordinary things: school projects, night shifts, bad coffee, and the strange guilt of laughing after someone you loved had died. Respect had come first. Trust followed in small, testable ways. Claire returned to grief therapy because she chose to, not because a board demanded proof of stability. Marcus learned to accept help without treating it as evidence that he had failed as a father. Neither of them promised to replace the people they had lost. A year after the dinner at Aurelia, Meridian opened the first room created by Maya's Empty Chair Initiative. The program belonged jointly to hospital families, labor representatives, grief counselors, and child safety advocates. Marcus accepted a limited advisory role and kept his airport job. Claire never used him or Lily in an advertisement. At the dedication, the same cream card rested inside a simple glass case beside Claire's hospital note. What had once been called a prop was now part of the official record, the small object that had forced a powerful system to tell the truth. Lily placed her blue paper flower on the empty chair, then pulled 2 additional chairs beside it. Claire removed the silver watch that had stopped at 8:17 and wound the crown. The second hand trembled, caught, and began to move. Marcus touched the wedding ring beneath his shirt but did not remove it. Maya was not erased. Claire's husband was not replaced. The empty chair remained, but it no longer demanded that the living stay empty too. For several quiet seconds, no one spoke. This time the silence held no shame, fear, or defeat. It was the stillness of people finally understanding that dignity never needed to shout, and kindness had not disappeared. It had simply traveled through the right hands until it became justice.